Okay. So we'll start again. I'm thanking you all for coming back to the 30th anniversary Orientation Symposium that the HRD unit is sponsoring. We're doing this, as I said, it's our 30th anniversary, but we're also doing something special for the new students, our 28th cohort, who are coming in to share classes with us in September. We had 2 wonderful presentations yesterday, and I know that the 3 today will be fantastic as well. We'll start off this morning with Miss Trisha Carara. She's a dynamic entrepreneur, motivational speaker, workshop facilitator, trainer, mentor, and author. And she's passionate about human development, empowerment, and youth advocacy. And as a resilient success coach and content creator, she brings transformational energy into every space that she enters. Her mission is to uplift individuals and communities, building resilience and guiding them toward growth and purpose. Trisha has worked extensively with local and international policymakers, industry leaders, educators, and influencers to drive change. As the owner of Elijah's Prince JA and Keep Encouraging Yourself, she creates personal and professional development tools that inspire success in her clients. Her guiding philosophy is that transformation happens through collaboration. And so she partners with individuals, organizations, and institutions to drive sustainable change. She said that like a strong rope woven from multiple strands, collective efforts amplify success and create a greater impact. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Trisha Carara to the HRD Unit's Orientation Symposium 2025. And today, her topic is employee engagement, and she will present a workshop that she has developed especially for you. So join me in welcoming her.
Good morning, and thank you for that introduction, Ms. Thomas. I greatly appreciate it. Can you allow me to share my screen before we proceed here? Let's do this, opening that from beginning. Escape. Back into the Zoom here, and here we are. Share. Fantastic. So can you see my screen clearly?
Yes, we're seeing it, but it's not in presentation mode.
Right. In presentation mode right now.
Yes.
Right, so give you 1 second here. 1 second here, and we're not going to misbehave today at all. 2, 3. 1 second. All right, so we'll get to the presentation mode in a few minutes here. All right, good morning, everyone. And I would just like to take this opportunity to say it's a pleasure to be with you today, and I hope that we are all doing well. We're alert and we're ready to be engaged, not just entertained, but also challenged. Can I allow me to do a little bit of housekeeping here? Can you see your chat for a copy of today's workbook? And throughout the session, you will find engagement resources in the chat, and you'll be directed to engage. For conversations, please raise your hands, and when you're not speaking, kindly mute your mics. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, let me get going with this. All right, so basically, one of the things that I wanted to speak with everybody about today is how to be better at doing what it is that you have been trained to do and more likely have been desiring to do basically all your life. And well, I'm assuming that. So in other words, I just like to take this opportunity to say congratulations as you advance in your careers in the field of human resources. I do applaud you for all the work that you have been doing and the journey that you have taken. HR is one of the most critical functions in any company, and this I know you know. So you're not just paper pushers, you are not just policy enforcers, you're also peacekeepers. And you're responsible for keeping people basically engaged, focused, and productive. But the reality is, if that doesn't happen, the company will not fulfill its objectives. And your presence here tells me that basically training is important to you. But to be blunt, if you're walking on one leg, you won't get very far, and you certainly won't get there fast. So if you're determined to drive engagement, focus, and productivity, that's what I'm defining as one leg. But one leg alone won't carry you to the distance. You actually need your second leg. And here's where I'm going to disrupt your thinking. You see, before you ever step into a company to fix or advance it, you must first work on advancing yourself. You must master your own engagement, your own focus, your own productivity. You must be able to stand tall, to stand strong, because you cannot impart the strength when you're weak. You cannot provide what you do not possess. So the other leg is your own transformation for growth development, and that means becoming the embodiment of engagement, focus, and productivity within yourself, for yourself. So basically, if you don't have that, you really can't give it. And that may sound harsh, but then again, the reality is truth is rarely gentle. Give me 1 second here. Let's minimize this. And let's go to the slide. I am having a little challenge here. Allow me just 1 second, please. Thank you. And sometimes technology just decides that it.
Anything I can help with?
Just give me 1 second. I don't know why technology oftentimes feel as if it should do this to us.
Yeah, but we're seeing it in presentation mode, so I think you're fine.
There's another document that I need to be looking at, and I don't have it elsewhere, basically. All right, so pretty much, we're going to now just basically look at what I'll define as your first leg. And if you look at employee engagement as one leg, then you're just helping the organization. And that in and of itself has its advantages and also its disadvantages. Just helping in the organization can help you to reach your potential and your training potential and your desire to make an impact and make a difference. So the engagement basically starts with you. And before you can elevate an organization, you must literally elevate yourself. I mean, engaging in life, not just to exist. And one of the things that I've found is during my journey that it's easy to exist without realizing that you're existing. So you want to be able to add value to what you're doing. And that is to empower yourself, to identify your own fears, to deal with your past pains, to deal with your accomplishments, and not let your accomplishments get the better of you. You see, to realize that being a better you, loving yourself more, enables you to fill your cup more, which means you can give more to others, is in essence what I'm trying to say. To be your own cheerleader. In that way, you'll be able to be a better cheerleader for your team, to be a better team leader. You see, your personal growth will positively impact your professional responsibilities. This will help you to deeply understand what it means to be an HR practitioner, especially in this day and age. You'll be more empowered to throw yourself into your work. You'll be more empowered to throw yourself into your staff. You'll be more empowered to throw yourself into all the responsibilities that come with being HR. So the value that you're going to add will be even more than you can even think when you more engage yourself. And it's interesting that that's one of the things I've come to realize in my own journey. The more I'm in tune to me, is the better and the more effective I am at what I do, in what I stand for, in what I believe in. And that's basically what I'm trying to impart right now. That the facts are really clear that as humans, we all have soft spots. None of us are perfect. I don't know if any of you have any perfect parents. I know I definitely didn't. If you did, please, I would love to talk to you after the session, because I don't believe that's just our reality. Our parents did the best that they could with what they had. But in some instances, we all know we failed. And as a parent myself, I know I failed in areas. But being human means that you have to resolve your emotional challenges. Being human means coming to grips with yourself, facing your struggles and your realities, and be better at imparting change, better at engagement, better at empowering others. So one of the reasons we're here today is to underline the importance of working on yourself in every area of your life, not just academically. You have your degrees, you're preparing to acquire another, but degrees are really theoretical permissions, and true value comes from developing yourself fully, emotionally, mentally, and practically. To be resilient, to be a part of your own transformation so that you can better impart on other persons. So now there is a file I need to access here. Allow me to just come out of presentation mode just for 1 second, because this is not working the way it's supposed to be working right now. So please just allow me 1 second. But in essence, if anyone has any input or anything that they would like to share right now, it will be a good time based on the angle that I'm coming at first engaging yourself and being more involved in your process. If anybody has anything to say, I'd appreciate that right now.
Alison put in the chat that you can't share from an empty cup.
And that is true. And that I would say is very true. Any other inputs? No one else? Anything you want to add, Ms. Aldovine?
Well, not really. Right. I was hunting for the link, to tell you the truth. I was hunting for the link. So I put the link so people can download the workbook. You have the PDF, but you also have the link that you can get it straight from there. That is, I was sort of hunting for the link for that.
Fine. So with the PDF workbook, you would be able to access information as it relates to our conversation today. This is just not.
Yeah, there are many resources in the workbook. I was looking through it earlier today. So yeah, please download that. It's a really good resource coming away from this session. Right? I'm sorry, I have somebody doing construction in the house across the street from me, so you might hear some noise when I open my audio.
Understandable. This is not going according to plan at all, and this is just one of the journeys of technology. And here we are today talking about technology, and we'll also touch a little bit on AI. And with that said, the challenges that we face in this space, but then you have to work with it and make the best of it. So let's get back to business right now. So basically, the only thing that is constant is change. And when we look at change, we're basically talking about the first leg, which is engaging yourself. Engagement starts with you, and before you can elevate an organization, you must be able to elevate yourself. I mean, engaging in life is not existing. It is empowering yourself to identify and deal with your own fears and your past and your and how you perform and how you deliver. But in engaging yourself, you have to be honest with who you are and honest with where you are in life and the things that you want to do and you want to realize in your own life. So here is a screenshot of, and this is also in the workbook, of things that you can take away from this conversation. Because in spending your youthful years and your energy and your focus on becoming an HR practitioner, you want to be able to be the best that you can be. You want to be able to realize that your studies add value to, you're more likely not an ability to engage with people and to connect and to make a difference. So I'll ask you directly, in your studies, in your preparations, in your personal strategy, what are you developing that artificial intelligence cannot easily replicate or replace or outperform? The reality is that we're living in a time when artificial intelligence is taking over. So what is it that you're doing in your personal growth to shield yourself from the challenges as well as the opportunities that artificial intelligence brings to the HR industry? Any responses? No takers?
There were some people who were here at the artificial intelligence talk yesterday. I'm working on improving my emotional intelligence. That's what Anita Sutherland is saying.
And that's a very good step, Ms. Sutherland. It's very important, especially in your field, empathy and understanding and trying to not allow your emotions to get a better of your decision-making process.
And Shakira Kane is doing online courses to advance her skill set.
That's fantastic. Retooling is always a good thing. Retooling is always a good thing. Anybody else?
We were told yesterday that there is a certain essence in being a human being that artificial intelligence hasn't yet caught up with. So it has more access to data than we do, but the application of the data, the using of data in a cultural context that causes it to be received well by your clients, that sort of thing, artificial intelligence hasn't yet caught up with that. So we were looking at the biases that we find in the training of these AIs that causes them not to be completely relevant, certainly to us here in the Caribbean, to us in Jamaica. And we would now have to train these machines ourselves to get things. I mean, simple things like if we're trying to do posters, we're trying to do flyers or videos or things that are relevant in our context, the accent in which the presentation is done is not ours. The look of the people in the presentation is not ours. And you have to keep reminding your AI that you're Jamaican with 99% of the people being African diaspora, that sort of thing. So there were things like those that we were cautioned against. And of course, we were cautioned that making sure that you actually know the theory and you can apply it, you outperform the AI. The AI gives you something sterile, you will present something that breathes and that your client is comfortable with.
And that's very good information. So basically the companies are actively reimagining HR's role. And in other words, HR is being tasked to hire more people, but to help to streamline it, to automate it, and in some cases, eliminate positions, which would speak to what you just shared, Ms. Thomas, about understanding AI and how AI impacts us, especially as Jamaicans in the Caribbean, our language, our culture. So having a clear understanding again of who you are, where you are, what you want to accomplish, and then taking that to the AI space would be to your advantage.
But it's interesting that you say, sorry, it's interesting that you say what you want to accomplish, because one of the things that we were looking at as well is that what the AI can do for you is get rid of the busy work. So it can process faster than you will ever be able to process and do all of that. But the strategic thinking, that sort of thing, the planning that you need for your context, it can't do that. Not yet. So that was something. We still have to be the strategists.
Yes, exactly. And that again comes from the understanding of what you want. So, like, are you aware that you might have to deliver exceptional, irreplaceable value just to get the job? So the retooling is always going to be a good thing, because the reality is basically by the time some of your graduates graduate, the role would have maybe shifted beneath their feet. And in today's market, it's entirely possible for someone to get a job and then lose it next month, again, because of technology. So how is it that you advance and position yourself to be, if not even ahead of the game, to be in an advantageous position where you add value, where you become the person that will not be sent through the door, whilst taking into consideration the changes of AI? It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. There's actually a greater race on to advance AI. And it has been stated that AI is more advanced now than they thought it would have been. And what is happening now, they thought it would have taken a couple more years. So with the reality that it's not going anywhere, how do you position yourself? How do you get past your biases, get past your fears, get past your disbelief about what AI can do and will do? Have you done some research on this? So the angle of emotional intelligence, Anita, is a very good angle because AI can't give that. Problem solving, strategic thinking, ethical judgment, and the ability to inspire and connect with people, AI can't give that. Those strengths, those abilities are irreplaceable. So how do you become a better you in order to be better at your job, to be better at engaging your staff? What is it that you're going to offer on your resume to a potential employer, to make them say, we definitely have to consider her or him, even in the face of what AI brings to the table? So retool yourself, have a better understanding of what AI has to offer, and make that work for you. Please do not be one of those who think that AI is not going to do what it can do, which is replace a lot of work. But find yourself in that position where you are better equipped to be the person that is called upon whenever a job needs to be done, is the essence of what I'm saying right now. So here we have a video that is courtesy of First Post. And the video started when I wasn't ready for it to be started. As you can see, the title there is mass layoffs. So basically, it's talking about the impact of AI. So let us take a listen.
For the last few years, every January has started with the same.
Are you hearing it? You're hearing it a while ago, Ms. Thomas?
Yes, I was hearing it.
Fantastic.
Year payoffs, but 2025 feels different, and here's why. It's not just cost cutting or restructuring or inflation or even a pandemic hangover. This time there is a clear culprit. It's artificial intelligence. If you're wondering whether AI is coming for your job, well, spoiler alert, it may already have. Let's start with India's tech titan, TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. They're letting go of 12,000 people. 12,000. That's roughly 2% of their global workforce being laid off. This is the largest layoff in the history of TCS. The worst affected are mid and senior level managers. Now, TCS says AI is not the reason. The CEO says there is a skills mismatch. But dig a little deeper, and here's what's really happening. TCS has trained more than 114,000 employees in advanced AI skills. And many in middle management could not move past the basics. They could not transition to tech-heavy roles. In a world run by algorithms, that gap is too big to ignore. So this is likely a result of that. Then there is Intel. It is laying off roughly a quarter of its total staff. That's around 24,000 of its employees. The reason? Intel says it is cost discipline. The company wants to streamline its operations. It is shutting down plants in Germany and Poland. It is relocating operations from Costa Rica to Vietnam. So the company wants to be leaner. Third in line is Microsoft. It has cut around 15,000 jobs this year. This is despite record earnings. Why then are they laying off people? CEO Satya Nadella says it is restructuring. And Panasonic has a similar excuse. The Japanese tech giant is cutting 10,000 jobs. About half of these cuts will be in Japan. Again, the reason is the same. Panasonic wants to reduce costs. It wants to invest into future technologies like artificial intelligence. So you see the pattern. And the thing is, you will not find a smoking gun. Companies are not putting AI fired you on official memos. They're using generic terms like we are streamlining, we are focusing on efficiency, the goal is to be leaner. These are just corporate synonyms for AI can do more than you. Which brings us to the question, is artificial intelligence behind all of these layoffs? And the answer is no. Some of them are about cost optimization, also about geographic shifts, like moving from Costa Rica to Vietnam, and changing priorities. Companies are not spending like they used to, especially on experimental tech. But AI sits like a shadow over all of it. CEOs don't have to say, we are replacing humans with artificial intelligence. They can just say, we are restructuring. But it boils down to the same thing. Also, layoffs this year are not targeting entry-level people or top executives so much. The real squeeze is in the middle. These are the roles that used to be safe. Your team leads, the delivery heads, the operations managers. They managed projects and oversaw timelines. But guess what AI is very good at? Scheduling, documentation, and writing status updates. So the era of the middle manager is fading. Companies now either want doers or thinkers. The layers in between are getting peeled off. So what can you make of this trend? The layoffs themselves are big, of course. But they also indicate the future of work. Speed matters more than experience. Output matters more than seniority, and AI skills, they matter the most. The corporate ladder is being replaced. The future belongs to those who can adapt, not just climb. Because like I said, the ladder is gone. In its place, there's now a road. You keep moving or you get left behind.
Okay, so having seen that video and understanding the tone of the conversation thus far is about engaging yourself in order to engage staff. What anybody wants to share their thoughts on the video or anything as it relates to AI or the importance of staff engagement as it relates to engaging yourself? Any takers, any points? Any conversation, Ms. Higgins?
It occurred to me a while ago. The lady said that you get corporate doublespeak what they're talking about all sorts of things, efficiencies, all the rest of it, but it boils down to AI can do more than you. The truth is, if companies aren't prepared to be truthful about the way in which they see the workforce going, they're not giving employees a chance. And we're talking about employee engagement. How engaged can I be in that kind of uncertainty? At least if you tell me this is where we're going, if you want to be a part of our future, prepare yourself in this way, then that gives me a fighting chance. But it maintains my trust in the organization. Now, I may end up not being able to keep up because the video also talked about the fact that a lot of people couldn't rise beyond the basic. So I'm going to yield to current, but that is how I'm thinking. I'm looking at trust and engagement and all of that in this time of uncertainty.
Thanks, Olivine. I'm in agreement with you, Olivine, because it's definitely a double speak. I heard on the video she actually said organizations are looking for, and please correct me if I heard incorrectly, organizations are looking more for doers. Did she say, and thinkers are not thinkers?
Doers and thinkers is what they said. They want doers and thinkers.
Right, doers and thinkers. So, but AI requiring thinkers. I mean, AI is doing a lot of the thinking, unfortunately, because of course it as you said, it can there's a lot of information I think is generated in a split second. That we perhaps would take days and perhaps to come up with. My challenge is when you're looking for doors amongst people who are thinkers, and that also limits the amount of engagement you are going to have from individuals. And so I can understand the middle layer of the organization being eroded, because these individuals cannot remain engaged. And also those people who are, you're inviting persons into the organizations, and you're asking them to have a whole lot of qualifications, a whole lot of skills, but then when they arrive inside the organization, they're asked to do, and they're not invited to be part of the strategic thinking, because you have AI that's also helping out in that area. So that's something I've seen, and I often wonder, organizations are pushing staff engagement, employee engagement, but it's a challenge because you're on the one hand you're pushing for engagement, but on the other you are not enabling individuals. You're not allowing individuals to be engaged because they're not part of, they're not invited to the table, i.e. decision making. They're not invited, at the planning stages of the organization. They're just invited to do. And that's not, sufficient, and that's not going to help in engagement. I hope that made sense. I felt I was rattling a little bit.
I understood perfectly.
Thank you.
That does make sense, and that's the challenge with this day and age of how do you engage and how do you remain relevant. And what you may consider relevant is not necessarily relevant to me, because you spoke about staff engagement. And so how do you engage your staff if you're not in a position to understand what the changes are and what is required of you? And that in and of itself is a challenge, and hence the importance of doing the research and regarding whether we like it or not, that AI is here. So going forward with yesterday's session and today's sessions, how do you better equip yourself to be a force to reckon with? That a company will say, we have to keep her. We cannot let go of Miss McDonald, even if we incorporate other tools through technology. Miss McDonald is valuable to us. How do you become that person? And that's the challenge with this day and age. And as you rightly said, Miss Thomas, in terms of trust and building that trust and having that rapport, you would want them to share, but they're not. But you have the information. So what do you do then? And again, what is good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. So what exactly is it that is required of you? You don't know. But what you do know is that better engaging yourself so that you can be more effective and efficient and, well, valuable is going to be more important today. The emotional intelligence is going to be more important today because AI cannot give that. So how do you become better at being emotionally intelligent, at being genuine, at being real with people so that you can be that person to add the value that AI can't add? However, integrating AI in the space. So to create that balance, and as I've often said to persons, balance doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. Some way God created the earth and it's 70-30, 71-29, but let's say 70-30. How do you become that person that creates that 70-30 balance in order to better engage staff, in order to help that organization which you want to be a part of or are currently a part of meet their goals? And so staff engagement in this day and age is going to change, and it's going to continue to change. Because if companies are not hiring because they're looking at technology, the change is already happening. If they are firing, again, the change is already happening. So how do you get on that bandwidth wagon rather than be the one left behind? So how do I better engage my staff so that I can be better equipped to do what I'm trained to do, what I have spent my youthful years doing, to become an HR practitioner? So it's a challenge across the board.
Sorry, you have two raised hands.
I can only see one. Can you acknowledge them for me, please?
Current has another comment.
Oh, go ahead, Corinne.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't. I didn't take my hand down. I'm so sorry.
Oh, all right. I had a comment because in the video, for me, it was very ominous that they said that speed was going to be valued more than experience. And I think that one of the things that when we look at organizational learning, we look at all of these things that have been celebrated, it really does signal a new day dawning if the experience and the prior learning that you have done is no longer going to be valued, no longer going to be prioritized. What they want is your agility and and that sort of agile, that sort of thing. If we look at what happens with persons who are hired on contract and that sort of thing, we're not going to get the sort of loyalties that we need. So the relationship of the employee with the organization is going to be changed dramatically in this kind of world that we're having here now.
And that is definitely true. There is no question about that. And at the beginning, the slide was only thing that is constant is change. And so how do we become a part of it? How do we not become the Nokia that did not adapt when BlackBerry came around? How do we not become the Kodak that did not adapt when the digital camera on phones was introduced in the market? How do we not become that person? Because yes, those are organizations, but it takes people to make the organization. So how do you engage and empower yourself in order to not be the person left behind so that you can continue to engage with staff as we all transition, as we all grow, as we all learn about this space of AI, of the transitions and the changes in technology? You had something to say, Ms. McDonald?
No.
Ms. Higgins, would you like to join in?
Sure, I was just actually typing something. I was gonna say to help not be the one left behind. I was thinking to always, keep your eye on emerging trends, locally and regionally. And Miss Thomas was talking about speed. The video was specifically talking about tech companies, right? Which, technology changes so very often. So what is here 1 month is old the next month. And but also I was re-listening to the video and it was a bit terrifying. um so that it's saying to me that I need to keep myself always, well, skilling up, always expanding the knowledge, um, and looking out there to better myself, so that I can pass that on to others, because I mean, it's serious out there. Thanks.
It is. As an author, when I see what persons are now doing with books, and I think about the hours that it took me, the days, the mental exertion, just the things I had to sacrifice in order to produce any one of my books. And I think of what persons are doing now. When I look at even my digital content, and a friend of mine sent me a video where you can literally just download somebody's video, put it in AI, and have it just revamp the entire video, the script, the illustrations, using your content and making a new video from it. So that means they're not infringing on your copyrights. I was alarmed. And this is what is happening in the space. So yes, you're right, Mr. Gibbs, the video speaks to technology, but it's happening across the board. And it is, in truth and in fact, scary, because when I saw that, I'm saying, but why would I want to spend so much hours and time and mental energy to create something for somebody to just walk away with it and really and truly do no work other than copy and paste a link? Copy and paste a link. That's all they needed, was a link. They didn't even need to download the video. It didn't require any work of them to take anybody's content. And that's the reality. It is scary. So you're correct about retooling. You're correct about skilling up. What does that look like? That's another conversation to have. What does retooling and skilling up look like? Is that I don't want to butcher the first name. So go ahead, please, Hassan.
Yeah, this idea of speed is most important. I came across this from 1995 when I worked at Jamalco, and this was an international organization. So for you to be ahead of the competition, you have to be producing and providing the output at a particular speed. The laid back approach by many Jamaicans, I'm not sure where that came from, but that is not tolerated in the organization again.
Yeah.
So speed is going to be important, but not only speed, that you have to be accurate. You can't be speedy and making many mistakes. So it's really a different type of setting, and being brought to the fore now, and we have to fall in line if we have to keep up with what is happening around us. And if we want to be winners any at all, speed is underpinning factor.
Well, we moved from what we call the microwave generation. We used to warm up the food on the stove pot, and then it was the microwave generation. Then, that developed the whole mentality of speed. And now with TikTok, with Instagram, the concentration span has been limited. We used to have to watch documentaries for an hour, but now they're just looking at something for 1 minute, and that in and of itself has helped to fuel this mentality of speed. But to your point about accuracy, it's again creating that balance, and it's important, as you rightly said. Having the speed and no accuracy, I mean, what's the value there? But the transition is important, and hence I started with personal development, because if you don't get that right, especially this day and age, there's really no room for error, not as you face technology as a competitor, because that's what technology is for you. in the HR industry, a competitor. That's just a fact. So Ms. Higgins is right about it being scary. It is, but it's not going anywhere. And I can't mince the words. I can't put it any other way. It's not going anywhere. So denying it, as Nokia did, it's not going anywhere. Denying it, as Kodak did, it's not going anywhere. Because I'm now seeing where they're going to be getting rid of smartphones. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't read the entire article because I'm going, what are they going to do? I said, Trisha, not today. Because when they're talking about getting rid of smartphones, so you're not going to have your phone in your hand to use. So the technology is going to be constantly changing. How do we not only equip ourselves, but you know what you could do for those who have children, nieces, nephews? Just start doing the research on the AI and start talking to them about it and just listening to them because they are actually in the space and they have a lot more understanding of things than we do. And you might be intrigued to hear what they understand and what is happening in their world in terms of using AI, in terms of the changes that's happening in creation of material, in terms of even their schoolwork. Their approach is different than what we had experienced growing up and what we're even currently experiencing. So that's another avenue where you can get quite a bit of wealth, younger persons. Like on WhatsApp, I didn't even know that you could do screen sharing doing a video call as we're doing here. It was a younger person who told me. So the tools are there, they're more exposed to it. And that's definitely an area that you can go to be better informed as to what's happening. Do your own research. Find out what are your strengths and your weaknesses and how AI can help to strengthen your weakness and how AI can make your strength more valuable. And in that, well, not just AI, but technology. And in that way, it helps you to retool and how it can help you to better engage your staff. So at the end of the day, this conversation here right now, it's about you. It's about you being a better person in your space and in your capacity. Samantha, would you like to chime in? Samantha? All right, let's go to...
So, Trisha, may I just jump in here?
Sure.
So I'm all about, and I totally agree that, speed and accuracy are critical in this day. And I'm thinking while Professor Hutton was speaking, I was actually just thinking that, but isn't that the purpose of AI? Isn't that what AI is here to do? AI does, it takes over the some of what we were doing, and it does it much faster. It is a depth at the speed and precision that we are not capable of dealing with. And I would believe, though, that it's the soft skills that AI doesn't have that we now can build on, because organizations worldwide are now perhaps looking more at soft skills, developing their soft skills to deal with some of the changes that we're experiencing today, because AI can't emulate. AI can't, isn't good yet. It hasn't been able to adapt in that area. And I don't know if it can. It doesn't have a soul, does it? It doesn't have a heart. So I don't know if AI will ever get there. So I'm just wondering, is that the area that we are going to be, we should be focused on right now, of developing in that, developing our soft skills? We talked about the emotional intelligence, interpersonal relationships, building the organization through people.
Definitely. And hence the reference I made earlier to our parents and the challenges or just, and I'm going to use the word, the baggage that we may be carrying from our childhood traumas or from a relationship. Because until you again are more in tune with yourself, until you have come to grips with your own fears, the fears of swimming, for example, until you come to grips and you overcome and you feel the empowerment of overcoming your fears. I don't like cold water. I don't like cold water. And so I'm challenging myself to adapt to cold water because it's a fear of mine. And so whatever your fear is, however big or small it may seem to you, it's a fear. It's a roadblock. It's a challenge. And so, you walk for a mile, you just decide now it's time to walk for 2 miles. Once you overcome that fear, you feel better about yourself. You're more empowered. Once you are more empowered, once your cup is fuller, then you have more to offer. You become more sensitive to someone who says, I don't know what to do. I'm afraid. You don't see yourself as, oh, I'm better than you because I don't have that fear. No, you realize that you have your own fears. You have your own inhibitions. You have your own concerns. You have your own hurts, your own pain. So what you do is that you become more emotionally intelligent as you develop yourself because you become more in tune to yourself. Miss Higgins, go ahead.
Thank you. Totally agree with what you're saying. I remember one time in my life where if I'm in class, I don't ask questions when I'm in class, right? So I'll go home and try and do my studying, or I'll ask, a classmate. But along the way, I realized that look, some people are not going to ask the questions. When I go home, if I find the answer to it, I may still not understand, right? So I need to ask the question to the teacher so that she can, or he or she can get it in a way to me that I can understand. Plus, I'm helping other people, right? And that also helped me to when other persons don't understand things, I can tell them from my experience as a teacher, because it will help you to gain confidence and stuff like that. So when you work on yourself and you go through a process, you are now able to share that process and share, the emotions and the confidence and everything, so that another person can be able to say, okay, maybe I can do that too, because this person has done it. So if you help yourself to grow, then you can help others to grow. So yes.
So let me ask you this. How do you translate that, Miss Higgins, into I can add value? I am the girl. I'm the one. I'm the one that you need. Because all of that is fantastic because you're now empowered. You have now become more sensitive and mindful of the importance of getting over your own fears, your own challenges, and you're now able to inspire others. So how do you say to someone, no, you have to keep me. No, you have to hire me. I'm the one. So that's the other thing now. How do you take that
Right.
and translate that? And that doesn't go on paper. Or how do you put that on paper so that you become that person?
Right. Something to think about. To putting that on paper, I'm able to inspire and motivate persons through personal experience. I don't know.
That's
Other than
that's
that.
no, that is an angle. So as Ms. McDonald spoke about soft skills, make it your challenge to understand how to identify your soft skills. So, and that again, by in and of itself is not easy. So again, I would say to you, use AI and ask, what are the various soft skills? And then you say to yourself, okay, I have this, I have that, I have the other. And I don't have this, but this is why I need to develop this. How do I develop this genuinely? Because people can tell when you're not being real. So how do I develop this genuinely? How do I make this a part of me? And then now you have soft skills that you can add to your resume, but you won't just put it as a soft skill. You will just say what you just said about, overcoming my own challenges. And just as I asked you, how do you put it on paper? What are your challenges? And asking questions is a challenge for a lot of persons. So one of the things that I do in a space like that, which you've gotten past, but you can share with others, is I say I'm not afraid to ask a stupid question. Now, you hear people say, no, this question is stupid. But just in case I'm dealing with someone who's so confident in themselves that they're arrogant, that they may think my question is stupid, I'm clearing that air. So I'm now releasing any concerns or fears or inhibition I may have about how who I'm engaging is going to respond. So I say, I'm not afraid to ask a stupid question. So bear with me as I try to better understand this space. So that's how you translate something like that to someone who is timid, and not only just timid, don't have the wherewithal like yourself to face yourself and say, I need to do better. I need to be better. I need to get past this. Because there are some of us that are not able to do that on our own. We need somebody to hold our hands. So you need to recognize that Trisha needs you to hold her hands, or Miss Thomas needs you to just sit with her and talk her through it. Or there's just somebody that said, listen, man, get up and go and do that. And it is done. So it is for you to also identify, it's a lot of work, who needs what and when. Hence, the personal development is important. Because things that matter. Go ahead.
Sorry, a question. All right, so I work at a place where sometimes it can be overwhelming and a drag sometimes. So I'm the type of person where I try. So I have pictures of, I love to go to the beach. That's my happy place. So I have pictures of I print pictures and I put them on my wall, and I look and stuff, and I try and put little things like little turtles and stuff and whatever in my space. And one time I had what I called a chill pill jar, right? And I put M&Ms and Skittles in it, and I put it on the front of my desk, and whoever wants to come, I put a little label on it to say, if you want a chill pill, take one, right? So I had people come into my office and, talking and chatting and stuff, and just to come for the Skittles or the whatever for the day. Can that be translated into, I don't know, a soft skill, an aspect of HR, something of some sort? I don't know.
Empathy.
Okay.
Proactive. You're proactive. You're showing empathy because you're making resources available to someone who may be having a stressful moment or a stressful day, but they're not ready to talk. So you are making something available. So you're not saying to me, Trisha, you have to talk to me. I'm going like, but Miss Higgins, I don't want to talk. I'm not ready to talk. But so you're saying to me, listen, if you don't want to talk, this is still a safe space. Come and grab a Skittle, grab some water, leave. And so I also know that because you have made that available to me, your office is also open to me when I'm ready, if I'm even going to be ready. But the fact that I have that resource, as simple as it is, my thing sometimes is that I just feel for a Snicker bar. I don't want to talk. I just feel for a Snicker bar and I'm good. So that's empathy, and that's being proactive. You're positioning yourself to be someone that your staff can turn to in a time of need, even if they're silent. You're saying being silent is okay, but I'm still here for you. So you're being proactive. If there's anybody else who wants to chime in on some suggestions in that situation. So you have empathy, you have been considerate, you're not being selfish.
She's actually, and I think she's just creating a psychologically safe space where, as you said, individuals feel they can just walk in, grab a chill pill, but if they want to talk, they're able to do so. I'd like you to take us into our own context, into our own organizations where we're challenged significantly. Many are challenged significantly with the soft skills, experiencing those soft skills. Or many of our organizations are not designed structurally to deal with those issues, to allow individuals a psychologically safe environment or space in which they can just take a chill pill, just to relax, take a breath, etc. I hear many individuals I've spoken with who would say, HR does a checklist, and they know it's a checklist. So persons, individuals are aiming or are trying to empathize, or are saying they're empathizing, but individuals you can actually see through them, as you said earlier. You can actually see that they're not genuine, and it's a checklist. I spoke with 2-3 employees today who were stressed. Tick. We did an employee engagement intervention. Check. And things remain, just go right back to normal. You do the intervention, you move on, and you move on. Tomorrow, we're back to normal again. So we really have to look at our own context as well. And because a lot of people in our organizations are stressed, they're so overwhelmed, they're not being listened to, they're not feeling valued. And with all the development, and I'm sorry, I don't want to throw a spoke in the whole thing, but we have to also look at our reality, and it's not always pretty inside our organizations. And it's persons are stressed and are looking for that psychologically safe space. So, Miss Higgins, were you the one with the jar? Fabulous, kudos to you.
So one of the things that I would suggest is, oh, sorry, you want to say something, Ms. Higgins? Go ahead.
That's right. I was just saying thanks. I'm not in HR though. It's from an employee, a regular quote unquote employee to a regular employee point of view, because I know that I would love somebody to do that kind of thing. So, I try and do.
And again, that's the thing about being personally engaged. But Ms. McDonald, if I may suggest, yesterday's session was on mental health. One of the things I could suggest in that space is, as you related, that persons know you have a checklist. Find a diplomatic, delicate way to start a mental health campaign, even if it is to utilize, do your checks and balances in terms of who you need to arrange with, but even if it is to utilize your WhatsApp chat group. And so that, I would hope, is something different. And if that's different, then persons won't see it as a checklist, they'll see it as another form of outreach. So things like stress, what's the definition of stress? What are the triggers of stress? What are the challenges related to stress? Some persons become overperformers when they are stressed. Some persons become underperformers when they're stressed. Depression takes different forms. A lot of persons think that depression is sitting down in a corner and crying. And that's not necessarily the case. Some persons are functional while they are depressed, but they may snap at something, at someone, when that's not a situation they would have normally snapped at. So you could start a campaign, just, create some flyers and share in the group, this is what is stress. This is what it can look like for many of us. This is what depression is. This is what it can look like for many of us. Please understand that the HR office doors are open for you, because this not only translates into your personal life, it translates into your professional life, which means it automatically again comes back to your personal life, your professional life. So you want to create an atmosphere where persons recognize that you're connecting with them. If you have a story that you can share personally, it helps to connect. It helps persons to realize that in Jamaican term, you're one away, that you're going through what we are going through, you've been through it. It doesn't mean that you need to get very deep into sharing, but just to say, I'm familiar with, I am exposed to, I heard of, I saw this from a distance, and this is what it did to me, even though I didn't walk that walk. So I can't imagine what you're going through. However, we're here for you. No, we're not perfect. No, we're not saying that we're going to understand, but please understand that we want to serve you so you can better serve the organization to meet these goals of the organization. And in reality, if you're meeting organizational goals, one would hope that you're also meeting your personal goals. You're able to to further your studies, you're able to assist your children, not children, but you're able to assist someone, you're able to pay your bills, you're able to advance in one way or another. So advancing professionally also helps you to advance personally. So how do you get that done in your space without infringing, without someone who has shared something with you feel as if you're betraying them? So creating a campaign, so to speak, about the purpose of HR. That's it. Some of us may not even really understand what your role is. We know that you hire, we know that you fire, we know that much, we know that you deal with grievances. That much everybody knows. But what else does HR have to offer me? So what are the soft skills of my team? What does my team have to offer this organization? How can I influence my team to be better so that we become more effective? And how do I translate that or transfer that information to everybody else in the organization? How does my team, how do I become more relevant? And you start sharing that information in your WhatsApp groups. You start sharing that information in an email. Oh, quick tip for the day, guys. Remember XYZ, drink water. Get up every now and then from your desk and stretch. Just, be more mindful of their space. Did you have your lunch today? Did you have a fruit? Did you exercise? I'm just throwing up various suggestions, but be engaging in a different way, which shows your soft skills. So Miss Higgins has the Skittles on her desk. What is it that you can bring to your space based on the type of organization that you're in? If you're in the manufacturing industry, what is it that you can do to create a reprieve? Is the shop hot? What can you do to create a reprieve? Can you just say, okay, guys, guess what? We're treating everybody to a bottle of water today. What is it? I know it's hard, so everybody just grab a bottle on the house. What is it that you can do to say, I'm here for you and I'm connecting with you? Persons are working from home. Can you send them a video with the team saying, hey, we're still glad that you're on board and we're encouraging you, even though you're not with us, you may be in your own space, that we're all one. So just what is it that I can do based on the environment that I am in to meet somebody where they are? And then you create a strategy around that. This month, this is going to be the conversation. Next month, that is going to be the conversation. So you're no more touching on your soft skills. Does that help, Ms. McDonald? Ms. McDonald?
Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Connection is poor. I'm not hearing you clearly, and I hope it's not on my end. Can you repeat that, please? Ms. McDonald? When Ms. McDonald is ready to speak, we'll definitely give her that opportunity. Okay, so let's move it along. Here, the headline. Intel, IBM, and Google have thousands of future hires as AI poised to reshape careers, automate tasks, and transform workforce dynamics in the next 5 years. Ms.
I'm
Higgins,
sorry, Trisha. I'm so sorry. I seem to have gone off. I seem to have fallen off somewhere. Seem to have fallen off, but I'm good now. Yes, what you said was absolutely useful.
fantastic, fantastic. And Ms. McDonald, you see my contact information is on the screen if you ever need to reach out to me, and anybody in the group that is. So Ms. Higgins, back to the realities again. The changes, they're constant. How do we remain important? How do we remain valuable? How do we continue to impart on our fellow employees? How do we continue to develop personally so that we can become better professionally? So there are two things here to look at is that the competition for roles will be fair, not just with other candidates, but the reality is machines. This resource is also available in the workbook, where you have access to the entire article, and as well as the previous video that we just watched, so that you could play it over and give it more consideration. So the other thing to look at here is that HR must position itself as a value creator, which is what we basically just discussed, not just administrative, but functional engagement, retention, cultural building that AI cannot replace. So we have had this conversation in length. If there's anybody else who wants to touch on anything else, feel free. But I encourage you, again, I implore you, if AI not going anywhere, the developments are not going anywhere, get on it. The same way in which you have pursued your degree, you do the courses in prompts, because yes, you need speed, as Professor Hutton said, you need the accuracy. What you ask of AI is what you get from AI. It's not like us, we ask us something and we give you a completely different response. What you ask AI is what AI is going to give you. But in this case, I'm referring to the chatbots. When you're trying to create even a platform for your own organization, integrating AI, when you're looking for tools, what you ask is what you're going to get. So you have to know what you want. Again, you have to understand where you are, who you are, where you're going, what you want to accomplish, as was shown in one of the earlier slides about where I am and where I need to be. So please be mindful of this as you transition yourselves into a new space, into becoming more effective. What do you want to accomplish? So you want to sort of like start up, have the end goal in mind, so that if you're using one of the AI chats, you can create prompts to get what you want from it, which will help with not just the speed, but also the accuracy. All right, I'm going to have to just exit for one quick question. I want to engage you guys with a chat here. Let me bring up this slide. One moment here. Get this for the chats. Presentations. Let's see. What I would like to share this. All right, let's look in the chat if anyone can respond to this. All right, let me know if you are, if you can click on that for me, please, that link. It will give you a question to participate in a poll. And the question is, do you use AI as a working tool? If you click on that, then we can get the responses and further the conversation. And if you're having any challenges, please let me know. Have you guys been able to access it? Internet, why you?
I didn't realize how much of a Luddite I am. I'm accessing it, but I don't know what to do. I'm clicking and I'm not seeing any response. I'm not seeing it do anything for me.
Not seeing the responses?
I'm seeing yes and no, but when I click yes.
Yeah, it's not allowing us to, it's not
Nothing's
allowing me
happening,
to interact. No.
Seeing the results.
You're not seeing the results at all?
Nothing
All right,
happens when we click our response.
and that's unfortunate because I have about 3 more here with that, and my internet is moving slow, I guess, because the windows are open.
Well, then by raise of hands, how many people use AI, you know?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So with a raise of hands, how many persons use AI?
I'm seeing 7 people indicating yes. 7 of the 20 people here. That surprises me. Though perhaps people aren't sure what AI is. Because remember, if you use Grammarly and those things, you are using AI. We're not talking about people who use ChatGPT and Copilot and all these things, Gemini. If you go on the internet these days and ask a question, Google's AI is the first thing that comes to you. So the truth is, a lot of us are using AI without recognizing it.
Well, exactly. And I'm trying to send a message. So I'm seeing in the chat where person asking that is asking to sign up, which is unfortunate because I don't know if I got logged out during the waiting period, but I'm just gonna have to put that to rest and not waste any more time on that. So the other conversations I'll just have them with you. And then you can just respond in the chat. My apologies for this. But you're correct about AI because Grammarly has now made the changes to its platform where persons actually it's no AI, and you have that option with Grammarly.
But if you use YouTube and you like some songs and then YouTube begins to recommend other songs to you, that is YouTube's AI doing that for you. If you use Netflix, whatever it is that you're doing, AI is everywhere. It's everywhere. A Gmail and Yahoo Mail have integrated AI. So it's everywhere.
But it's using it really in terms of for your workspace. So trying to go into the website a while ago, I now see something completely different on my screen and I'm unable to get back. So if you don't mind, tell me, Miss Thomas, what are you seeing? Because I hope I don't have to reboot. Are you seeing the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I'm seeing kind engagement opportunity. Kindly refer to the chat. That's what I'm seeing.
So it seems as if when I was typing, it opened, when I was typing in the chat, it opened a chat box, and I am truly hoping that I don't have to reboot to get rid of it. So the chat box is still open and therefore it's not allowing me to access anything. And let me just delete. Delete is not allowing me to delete it. This chat box started came about when I was responding to a chat in the group. And every time I try to click on the chat in the group, the chat box appears. And it's not allowing me to get off anything on my screen. So I'm just going to press escape here. This is not a good thing at all. Are you seeing the screen again?
Yes, the dynamics of personal strategy and lasting transformation.
Thank you for that, and my apologies. So basically, we're looking at the conversation about one leg, which is your personal development and your personal growth. You're recognizing who you are, where you are, what you bring to the table, and now you're going to be giving more consideration to what else you can bring to the table so that you become more valuable, not just to yourself, but to your organization, to the staff with which you have responsibility for. And I do believe that human development is a really crucial role. So for me, HR is a very valuable group of persons in any organization. And once done right, then the organization in and of itself will be able to meet its goal. The finance department gets the smile, the CEO and the CFO gets the smile because the staff is engaged. The staff is empowered. The staff wants to come to work and the staff wants to work. So HR helps to create that culture. HR helps to create that atmosphere and that energy. And I know that there are dynamics in every organization where you don't get to do the things you thought you're supposed to do. You don't get to perform the role that you hope you're to perform. But the challenge in that is what I call a ballerina moment. How do you move through those spaces like a ballerina? How do you create those forms, that position, that how do you provide that service in a challenging dynamic? Now, again, AI can help you to navigate that. You can now say, this is my environment, but I want to be this effective and this efficient, but I'm having these challenges. How can I strategize? So use AI to your advantage to be better at what you do, because you are your own boss. And so how do you navigate that space and become that ballerina? And that's a question that you can ask yourself daily. What moves do I need to make, to take? What positions do I need to be in? And the positions may be just mentally, it may be emotionally. Do you need to isolate for 5 minutes, go into the bathroom and just clear your mind so that you can better deal with a situation that you're not necessarily like dealing with, but you have to deal with? And taking that 5 minutes will better equip you to handle that space. So how do you become better at what you do? If we can, Miss Thomas, just share in the chat. It's also in the workbook. There's a personal development, a self-check quiz. If you can just take 5 minutes and look at the quiz, and you can just, it's not, the response is not for you to share, but it's a response for you to take more stock of yourself and see how this information, you searching yourself and being honest with yourself will better equip you. So it's a personal development self-check quiz. It is on the screen. Ms. Thomas, if you can put it in the chat. And it's also in your workbook. So if you can just take 10 minutes and do that for yourselves, please, that will be great. You will have the workbook, access to the workbook to review it and ask yourself more questions. Again, the answers are not for you to share. Everybody has access to the self-check quiz.
Coming.
And when you're scoring, if you can just, look at your total score and then take a look at your percentage. And to be mindful that wherever you fall, that this really is to give you a starting point to how you can better examine yourself and your own growth and your own development so that you can better serve and better equip those around you to be good at their better, really, not just good, but better at their responsibilities. So as you can see, a personal development is very important to how you engage. All right, and let us move on. And again, this is in your workbook. These, as I mentioned earlier, some of our books. So these are two of the resources that I use. One of them is a journal. And the importance of a journal is self-expression. And some of us express ourselves by writing. Some of us express ourselves by drawing, by painting. And so when I create resources, I try to do it in such a way to meet everybody where they are. And I've always been told that's not a good thing. That's something that we hear. But as a creative myself, I do realize that some days I feel like writing, some days I feel like making things with my hands. And then there are just some days when I feel like talking. So how do you find your space? How do you find that which allows your self-expression to develop? What is it that you like to do that makes you feel better about yourself? The New Beginnings, one of the topics that I cover in that book is the real meaning of no. What does no mean to you? And how do you interpret no? So these are things that we need to look at about ourselves, our perception of selves, or our perception of the things that persons say to us. It's not just what they said, it's how you respond. So now we will just quickly move on to the next leg, because the first leg was your personal development and examining yourself through those lenses. The second leg, which we have also touched on, has to do with the dynamics of an organization and how you, directly impact engagement in your organization. So how do you connect with your co-workers? How do you respond to them bringing grievances and their doubts? These are areas that we have discussed on the first leg. But if there's anybody else who wants to add to this conversation, feel free. What is it about what you have to offer that is going to be legitimate to bring about a needed resolution? How do you deal with the managers who blame the staff when they themselves fail to live up to their responsibility? How do you manage that space? How does your empathy, how does your own personal experience come in to that space to navigate it? How do you let staff understand that for you, yes, there is a checklist, but it's not about the checklist. It's about these are real situations, these are real issues, and these are issues that we need to address as a body, as a group, because together we're going to rise and together we're going to fall. So how do you manage the staffing in a way that aligns with the company's financial goals? How do you translate that to the staff that no matter what they bring to the table, it is valuable? So the question really is, and the conversation is, how do you strategically position yourself to be more efficient in your second leg? So again, this is how you see where your unresolved issues, such as your anger and such as bitterness or anything from your personal life is unaddressed, how it impacts how you interact with your staff. Your triggers, what are your triggers? And so how do you manage your own triggers, and how do you find peace in that in order to help somebody find peace, that they can be more efficient, that your office becomes that much more valuable, that much more useful that much more efficient. So you really and truly need your both legs. You need your professional side and you need your personal side. You need your personal development and your professional development. And I think the personal development in this day and age is becoming more important. It's not just having the degree. It's who am I and what do I bring to that table? Do you smile? I mean, I remember there was one banking institution I went into, and everybody walked past me frowning, and this is a bank, and they were rebranding. And I sat there going, this is unbelievable. It's not one person. We could say maybe the person is having a bad day. This is culture. That was my conclusion. This is culture. I went into another banking space and persons were passing, not even in my vicinity, but not in front of me. And if there were individuals or they're in a group, everybody stopped talking and turned around to those of us sitting in the foyer and said, good morning. And I said, this is culture. And for me, when I heard that, when I experienced that, I said, this is a good HR team here. That was my thought process. So that's something I'll leave with you. When you understand you and you understand what you bring to a table, you're able to create a better environment and a better culture. I will side and I will say to you, my daughter has a summer job and I warned her. In my opinion, she's in a healthy working environment. I said, listen to me. Don't take this for granted. You have a fantastic start. This is a healthy working environment. HR is working. Do not think that this is what you're going to experience for the remainder of your life. And it was unfortunate. That is my reality check for her. But if she goes through life thinking that, then she's going to be deceived. And that's not my role in her life. My role in her life is to prepare her for the reality she's going to face, whether she likes them or not. So I say that to say from my experience, being in certain organizations, the culture is readily identified. It's not difficult for us to see it as a client, as a customer, as a prospective customer. So persons who are in the field and going into the field, I implore you, check yourself. Look at who you are and what you bring to the table and be real and honest so that your job is more efficient, that you're able to better impact the internal customer service. A lot of us look outside, but we need to look at our internal customer service. That when the next person walks through the door and they greet someone in the reception area or they call, do they want to call again? I would call tax office and I would say to them, listen, even if I don't understand something, it's a pleasure for me to call you because of your customer service. And then there's another government agency I'll call and I just put the phone beside me and I said, you're going to wait for 40 minutes. And then when the person answers the phone, you're not even going to get information. You're going to have to call back 2 times and hope someone different answers so that you can make sense of it, of what you hear, and hopefully you get the right information. So I'm saying to you that this is the experience on the outside. I know I can tell. So how do you become that person that the dynamics within the workforce changes, that as a customer, I can say, yes, HR is working. Boy, this HR team here is doing a great job. I can feel the difference. I can sense the difference. So how do you impact the other members, other senior managers to create a dynamic culture where staff wants to come to work and clients want to deal with your staff? And I said that's easier said than done, but that's where you add the value. That's where you make the change. That's where you make the difference. Your internal customer service has to be excellent in order for your external customer service to thrive, which means the bottom line, which is what everybody wants to see happen in the company to grow so that they can keep their jobs. So what is HR doing in order for all of that to happen and visibly happen, that we can say, yes, it's HR? Training and engagement is indeed vital for the human development and the company's growth. But again, fixing yourself, protecting your mental health, strengthening your resilience and positioning yourself as someone indispensable is what is going to be a priority for HR. I have another question here that was supposed to be used on that platform, but it's not a yes or no answer. And let me see if I can find the question here and share it with you in the chat so that we can get your feedback on it. If you just bear with me for a moment.
In the interim, Alison could make her comment.
Go ahead. I'm unable to see that. Go ahead. Sure, Alison. Thank you for that. Thomas.
Thanks. So sometimes I realize that companies, organizations, the departments work in silos, right? And I was thinking, you were talking about culture. And I was thinking that sometimes the HR department or the unit, it's almost like they're not for the other departments. I don't know if you understand. So, the IT department hires somebody. Um, the IT takes care of the training and and that type of stuff. And it's almost like the HR doesn't do anything other than the paperwork. So you have the IT has its own culture, and you have the, account section has its own culture, and that sort of thing. Like like it's different businesses in the same organization. So you're saying that the role of HR, it's like the HR person has to say, okay, this organization, it's like I am the HR person for the entire organization, for all the departments, all the units. So I am I have to, it's just a matter of like being involved and know what's going on in each department so that it's not like different, like I said, silos, like different units doing their own thing. You were talking about walking into the place, and I've been into places where I come in and yeah, people don't say good morning and that sort of thing. And it's a simple thing, but you look at it and say, boy, times change, it's weird. But you would go into a place and you say, okay, certain people do it and then certain people don't. And it's almost like I said, there are different organizations in the organization. So the HR person would be, I guess, the way of like streamlining behavior, to a in a sense, um, so that the company can have one voice, I guess, in terms of that. Thanks.
So the unfortunate reality is divided, we fall. Together, we stand. That's the unfortunate reality in a situation like that. So as the group that's responsible for human resource, for human development, for human management, how can HR help to bridge that gap? How can you therefore become reliable, relevant, valuable to say this is a problem? And this is a problem for me because my job is at risk, because at the end of the day, I'm HR and I'm failing. That same conversation we had earlier about the unspoken word, and I'm being blunt here. So there's division, but at the end of the day, one would say that falls on HR. But HR didn't create the division, they maybe came there and saw that division. You came there and that was the culture of the organization. But you want to be relevant. You want to keep that job when that company decides that they're going to incorporate more technology. So how do you then become that bridge? How do you create a model to become the one? And so here again comes the conversation about soft skills. There is an opportunity in the midst of that challenge for you to be relevant, for your team to be relevant. Do you want to take on that challenge, or do you want things to remain as they are? Those are questions you'll have to ask yourself. And if you want to take on that challenge, what does that look like? So that's an opportunity for someone to become relevant when you have that kind of division. Do you do this in a very forceful manner? Do you do it in a diplomatic manner, or do you marry the two? And what does that look like based on the the politics of that particular organization? So those are challenges that you have to decide that if you will take it on or not. And again, is your cup full enough to take that on? Have you dealt enough with your personal challenges in order to take on that mammoth of a task? Do you have diplomacy? Do you have, again, the soft skills? Do you have the creative thinking? Do you have the critical thinking? Do you have the analytical skills? Do you have the empathy? Do you understand the dynamics of the persons in the space? Do you understand the culture before you came here? Just the different dynamics that you would have to look at. Are you that person? If you can't make a big change, how can you contribute in small ways? Do I keep the skills? Do I go to each department and say, here, keep this in your office to share this schedule with somebody who needs it? I don't know. Do you have post-its, physical post-its that you're going to put on someone's desk to say, have a great day? What little can you do to be remembered that HR exists, even in the space of division? So again, it boils back down to strategy. It boils back down to your approach. If that helps, Ms. Higgins, let me know.
Hello? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's a lot to think about.
Thank you. Anyone is going to participate, and can you check the chat, please? Unfortunately, that link is not working, and I'm not going to try and figure that one out while you're here. Technology is doing what it does. So the question is, which of these factors most impacts employee engagement in your experience? And if it were in the poll fashion, it would have been two responses. Number one would be unresolved personal issues affecting workplace decisions, poor communication between managers and staff, inability to address legitimate staff grievances. Number four, neglecting internal customer service and relationships. And number five will be a lack of personal growth or failure to learn from your past mistakes. Any other contributors, or do we just move on, or do I call names?
Responses are beginning to come in now. Yes, Dr. McDonald says unresolved personal issues affecting workplace decisions. Samantha says 2, 3, and 4. Allison says 2 and 4. Samantha says all the above.
Samantha, at this point, I'm going to tend to agree with you. Yes, at this point, I'm going to tend to agree with you, but what I have is 1 and 4. Is there anyone who wants to add to this conversation? All right.
You see, looking at 4, neglecting internal customer service and relationships. If you do not address legitimate staff grievances, you're neglecting internal customer service and relationships. If you have poor communication between your managers and your staff, that is also neglecting internal customer. You know, lack of personal growth or failure to learn from past mistakes. If the senior management don't have personal growth or fail to learn from past mistakes, that is going to redound to bad feelings in the organization. So in a way, it is all, you know.
Yes, and as this conversation continues, you realize how important self is and what you bring to the table. Ms. McDonald, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm in total agreement with all of them because I think all of the above matter. My number one would obviously be the fact that there are all these unresolved issues, personal issues that you hear people keep griping about. It's been happening for years and it's been the same issues they're talking about. And it's these individuals who behave in a particular way and they bring other people on who operate in exactly the same way. So these issues remain so unresolved and they remain unresolved. And people don't let them go. The employees just cannot let them go, and they affect absolutely everything that happens inside the organization. So even when they're trying to change culture, you're pulled back to those unresolved issues because that lack of trust is always there and is driving anything that the organization tries to do, irrespective of how positive it is.
And you're correct. And that's as I've said to others, one of the most rewarding things in life is human relationship. And one of the most challenging things in life, again, is human relationship. So again, how do you manage that space? But understanding that everybody has their own challenges, again, back to the soft skills. And some things, like I tried to say, and I'm going to use my daughter again, don't take certain things personal. And because it may not be directed to you, it may be as a result of someone going through something. So it's not everything that you take personal, but you have to be in that space, that mental space where you challenge yourself not to take things personal so that you can fix these issues. But if you have not fixed certain things about yourself, whatever that is defined as, then you're going to have challenges in those spaces. So that again is going to be a professional development, but that also is definitely personal. And I think now in this day and age, is the personal aspect is actually more important than it was before. The things that maybe we could sweep underneath the rug, we can no longer do that. So all of the above answers is really applicable for this day and age. And again, I don't think those questions were in the workbook because they're in the chat. I could update it and revise the link so that you can have the questions for your future reference. If you just give me some time, I'll update the link in the Google Docs. And today I should be able to do it. By tomorrow afternoon, you should be able to access the revised link with these questions in it.
Carol Ray has added dysfunctional leadership. And Samantha says it starts with a lack of communication. Allison says built into a toxic environment. And Samantha says, if the communication is bad, it will all go downhill. And then Carol Ray says, number 2. All these people are adding to the conversation quietly.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And yes, communication is key. Communication is key. I often say to persons, have the conversation. It may be difficult, have the conversation. If you need to take a deep breather, have the conversation. Maybe you need to take it 2 days, but have the conversation. Just be determined to have the conversation, even when it's difficult. So even if you don't have it today, just tell yourself it's important to have the conversation, and you find the wherewithal within yourself to do that. Okay, if we can move the conversation further along with how your personal development impacts your professional development and how it's important for you to use data. Data becomes more crucial now. This information is in your workbook. Unfortunately, I can't access the file that has a page. But this case study is in the workbook, and there are the links for your personal time references. So when we look at the IBM challenge, so the case study says IBM faced high turnover rates in certain departments, costing millions annually in recruitment, onboarding, and loss of in productivity. They implemented AI-powered predictive attrition analytics to identify employees most at risk of leaving before they resign. What we're doing in this conversation is looking at how you can retool to be more efficient and more effective at your job. Okay? So how did that work? What they did was data mining, and they looked at the employee demographics, their tenure, their role, and their locations. They looked at their performance ratings and promotion history. They looked at skills inventory and training participation. They looked at employee sentiment from surveys and internal platforms. They looked at compensation data and benchmarking. They looked at workload and overtime patterns. So HR integrated technology, AI, data, but they needed a human reaction to get this data. They needed to look at previous data in order to have AI assist in the analytics. So at the end of the day, they need you. You need to be that person. So the AI analysis was that IBM's AI system scanned the data and flagged high-risk individuals with a 95% accuracy rate. What actions did HR take? They personalized career development plans for at-risk employees. They adjusted workloads and provided flexible work arrangements. They targeted learning and development programs to bridge skill gaps. They reviewed compensation for the equity and market competitiveness. Again, they needed a physical person to do this. The results: significant reduction in attrition rates in the targeted business units. There was an estimated 200 million in retention savings over a few years. They improved employee engagement scores due to proactive career support. What this example does, it touches on internal HR operations, not just recruitment. It shows AI's role in moving HR from a reactive to predictive position. It used data to personalize employee support. It saved money through targeted interventions instead of blanket policies. Now, what HR is now doing in this situation is appealing more to the CFO. HR is now appealing more to the CEO. And if you're in an organization where you have shareholders, HR is now appealing more to the shareholders. So HR has now, through their own development, be it having a better understanding of technology and using the technology in their space, HR has now become more valuable and more useful. HR has now helped to improve the team through data, through artificial intelligence. At this time, I am going to ask that we can break out into 2 rooms, maybe take 15 minutes each, and have a conversation amongst yourselves about artificial intelligence being good for your job or good for business. And have one group for, and then have the other group against. And then we'll come back after that and have a quick conversation on the areas that you guys have identified. And I'm hoping from this that persons would be better in tune to what they can accomplish using technology and what areas of yourselves you need to develop and what skills you need to move going forward. So can we have the breakout room?
All right. Group 1 is for and group 2 against. And
Yes.
I'm just going to have people assigned automatically to the groups.
Understand. Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, you can now join. Two is doing well. Group 1 needs people to join. Andrea, Andre, nice to see you, Andre, Anita, and Nathaniel. Group 1, please. Room 1.
Activity.
Efficiency. Okay.
All right.
Basically, it's a whole thing.
And I guess the question will be asked, how? Or i.e. elaborate on what we just, on increased efficiency and productivity. Should we?
Yeah, I think it should. Streamlining processes, getting rid of, well, maybe not getting rid of, but decreasing the busy work.
One of the things I would say, how AI is good for jobs and business, the thing that Alison just mentioned about the reduction of the busy work, if it is that is going to free the people who used to do those things to do other more important things. So, all right, sorry, that's Trisha. I have to go. One sec.
Okay.
Maybe we should continue along that path
Right.
that Olivia started. So, right. So I don't know if this is where she was heading, but I'd imagine if it's good for jobs and businesses and organizations, therefore will free up individuals to go into in other directions. For some reason I don't see that happening though. I was just reading an article in the newspaper, Daily Mail, that was, it spoke to the fact that the company is now pulling most of its business. It's online. So it's a newspaper company, and it's now moving toward online processes, or, and of course it's going to lay off all of these people. So yes, it has freed up individuals, and you may find that employees get deployed elsewhere inside the organization. But if I'm, from experience, what you're seeing is that the majority of people are basically separated from the company. I don't know if there's agreement here, or...
Yes. That I think is what is going to happen in the short term. In the long term, though, you may have people doing exactly what Alison and others were saying they were doing this morning. Shakira, and they're retooling, they're trying to broaden their knowledge base, they're trying to build skills and all of that sort of thing. So you may be, and the other thing we need to look at too, with technology, remember, with AI is not the only thing that is happening. We're having new jobs being created, things that we didn't think about before. There are people who are living large on being what we call an influencer. And if you think about it, I'm not even so sure how you make money being an influencer. But people are doing that and living really well. And it's something that it's aspirational now for several people to walk around the place. They're replacing people who spent years learning to be advertising executives, learning to be ad agencies. And young people are coming in now, and just through their charisma, they're making a living without all of that. So the thing, and I'm also thinking too, that about 30 years ago, New Zealand, they were looking at a change. And what the government did is that the government sponsored wide-scale training for the people who lived in New Zealand, so that you saw a general improvement in the workforce. So the problem that we'll have is if the digital divide, what we had with people not having access to the internet, is compounded by the fact that they're left behind even further. So if it is that everybody had a fair chance, everybody had an opportunity to lean in to scientific progress, if everybody could do that and then find their way from there, then we could say that this AI thing is not as scary. It's not as dangerous to people's well-being as we may be thinking it is at the moment. But the fact is that we can't blame people. We can't say that it is going to be your personal development or the company for which you work, their obligation to you to do professional development on you. We can't say that. It has to be something that is system-wide. So our education system is going to have to change. Everything that we do is going to have to change to ensure that everybody is fit for living in the modern world, because the modern world is upon us. If you think about it, a caveman wouldn't be able to survive very well today without help. He wouldn't understand anything if he's at the stage of just discovering fire. He can't live in today's world unless somebody takes him in hand and tries to help him. And I think that is what is going to happen now. A lot of people are not technologically literate. They're not literate. I mean, just ordinary literate. We need to overcome those things. And it will take a concerted effort on the part of our government, on the part of our national training agencies. So it's not even just organizational HR. It's HR as a discipline. It's HR as an industry. All of that is going to have to step up and make its voice heard. Advocate now for wider, broader changes. We're looking at human development, not only just ordinary human resource development that is tied to organizations. That's how I see it. And I'm speaking there. I'm speaking there also with an eye to my social policy hat, because again, it has to be more than, as I said, it has to be more than HR. HR people are also members of the workforce. So you're going to be asking for change from within. But the fact is that you're going to get bigger and more effective steps forward if you have a force pushing externally as well. So advocate all you like from within. But as I said, you're going to need somebody, you're going to need an influence that is going to say it is not acceptable for a quarter of your workforce to be laid off at the stroke of a pen. That is not acceptable to us.
To be discarded.
Yes, yes.
Because you have a new
to have nowhere
generation.
to go.
Exactly.
So
Because you have a new generation that's coming in with this skill. They're coming in, that's their focus. These are the influences that you're talking about already, who are now coming in and replacing those people who, you know, who don't.
who spent years at Karamak,
Yeah,
who spent years.
absolutely.
You know, people who
Absolutely.
yeah, so that is it. It has to be more. It's more than HR. This is a bigger thing than HR.
Sounds like
To really-
legislation, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Sounds
It
like
is
legislation.
It
Yes.
is, and it is the government investing because as I said, our national training agencies, our government is going to have to say we're going to revamp our education system. Our education system cannot be releasing people who are functionally illiterate on the society. We have to have higher order skills. And in fact, some of these soft skills that we're talking about should be taught in schools. You don't just wait for somebody to hit upon a problem and be final and learn from experience. The thing
Now,
is,
you know, yeah, that doesn't work.
yeah, our education system was supposed to be teaching us to share and empathize from we were babies in toddler school, in kindergarten. We were supposed to be learning that, but our system and it is more
It's
than
not part of the curriculum, and that is
No.
sad. It's not, and that's what organizations need more than anything else right now. Because if you're up against bots, you need the social skills. You need those soft skills because you're competing with bots. You know,
and it is more than that. I'm seeing an unassigned participant. Let me go and sort them out. But it is even more than the HR. HR will have to link, as you say, current with psychologists because we have to understand psychological safety. We have to link with our organizational development professionals. We need to link with all of these other professionals. Anybody who has anything to say and do about human well-being, those people will have to be drafted in.
I know you need to run, Olivine, but you've talked about the need for the psychologists and organizations to help the HR, to boost, to help to bolster the job of the HR. Because, something we need to really consider is that our organizations are not equipped in that way. They're not accepting of that, of these skills, because that's not how they're designed.
Which
they're
means
structured.
that HR needs to lean into its advocacy role. We're not just
needs
going to
to
be
lean
people.
into its advocate. Yes. Absolutely.
I was
Let
just
me
about to
start.
say that.
Person. Let me talk to this person, all right? Prof. Hutton, are you there?
Of pulling all that information together in a heartbeat, and including information that I might not have even included in my letter. It's absolutely, it's wonderful. It's amazing.
Definitely. All right. So what I have, all right, let me just run through what I have so far. So yes, we're for AI in businesses, the workplace. It's good for increased efficiency and productivity. How? Reduction of busy work to free persons to do more important tasks, roles,
What's
More
the
strategic.
More strategic, yes. Ramala, more strategic, yeah.
Okay. More strategic.
We talked about decision making,
Task,
improve
right?
decision making.
So
Yeah,
forcing
right.
people to read. I don't like the word forcing, but I was saying forcing people to retool and upskill. I want a word. I want another word.
Encouraging.
Ah, that is it. Thank you. So
Definitely cost reduction.
okay. Do we put in the part about the education system needs to be changed, or was that just for discussion?
No, put it in because it would be maybe a change in it. So AI can work, but not unrestrained. We need to, it's part of a systemic change in the way we live. Trisha just asked us to come back to the main
Come
room.
back.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Sure. So with education system, national training agencies and governments would need to change to accommodate this modern world, and it'll take an concerted effort from HR as an industry to advocate and drive this change. Um, and we have decision, it will also help decision making based on data analytics, which can be processed in real time, and it also help in cost reduction.
What about helping organizations to become more competitive? Because once, businesses that adopt AI can actually gain a successfully gain an edge over their competitors.
More competitive.
competitive
All right.
advantage, yes.
Yes. Alrighty.
All right, so we're going back.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They should be coming back soon, I told them.
Thank you.
Let me see if
Have the option to end it.
yeah, that's what I'm looking. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But you see, when people get a chance to butt heads, it's, people like that.
And it's also interesting
Yes.
the information that's shared.
People coming back now. Room 2 is closed. Well, room 2 is also closed. 37 seconds.
On some of the findings. You want to start with room 1?
Okay, sure. Hi.
Fantastic.
All right. So we discussed that we are for AI in businesses, organizations, and we discussed 5 advantages of that. One, that AI would increase efficiency and productivity, and how in that it would reduce the busy work to free persons to do more strategic tasks. It would also encourage people to retool and upskill. And in this, the education system, the national training agencies, and the government would need to collaborate in terms of pushing, not pushing, but driving this change across the nation. And that we discussed that it will take a concerted effort from HR, not just in organizations alone, but as an industry to advocate and also drive the change, because there are a lot of persons who would get left behind in the workforce, or who may probably not even be able to join certain workforces because they don't have this skill. and that we would also need to help psychologists and other persons in those industries who deal with people, quote unquote, would need to help as well. Because of course, people don't like change and that sort of thing. So people are scared of things that they don't know, right? Or they are not sure that they can manage. So we would need all the help that we can get from persons who are skilled in psychology and who could motivate people to get to where they need to. AI would also help with decision making in terms of based on data. So AI would be able to process large amounts of data so that decision making could be more efficient, easier in certain places. But of course, we would still need the humans to sift through everything. AI would also help in cost reduction, and helping the organization to have a competitive edge. Because, like you mentioned with Nokia, nobody wants to be a Nokia. So, yeah, that's us. Thank you.
All right,
Anybody from our group? Yeah.
fantastic. So what we discussed in group 2, which is against AI in the workspace, is one, too many job losses. The relationships will be more transactional than with a human touch. AI makes HR work more difficult because those who have lost the jobs, you have that space to manage. And then those who are left behind, so to speak, become more fearful of their job and therefore the possibility of being less productive. Therefore it impacts job security. We also spoke about it affects the critical thinking skills because AI just makes it easier. You just put in some information, you don't need to think anymore, really. There was also a conversation that machines are not always efficient. It lacks the human access and emotional intelligence. AI is unable to consider certain nuances needed for solving HR problems, and the reference was made to someone being pregnant that really needed to leave work soon. AI also aid in covering up frauds in organizations, especially banks. It infiltrates, well, you can infiltrate humans, but with AI, it's easier to infiltrate the machine and manipulate the data, manipulate the information, literally delete it, which is something that has happened. It lacks ethical consideration and AI can be biased. So if we can just take 5 minutes, if there's anybody who wants to add to that, mindful of the time, if anybody else wants to add to that. Yvonne, is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't. I agree with most of all what you have said because that's what I have learned in a session that I had last semester. So I'm aware. Thanks.
Fantastic. All right. So basically, we understand both the things about AI that we like and we don't like, and how it can help us to better engage with our staff and be more efficient. And we also understand how much we don't want it in our spaces. However, the realities are what they are. So for your reference in the workbook on page 15 to 17, you'll find the case as well as just a summary of what IBM did and how it's impacted them. I'd like to thank everybody for participating in that discussion, and I think it will help us as we move forward. We're going to, this is one of my books here, and if you notice that it speaks about values and attitudes, and we have this conversation about the importance of our own space, our own mental space, our own emotional space and how it impacts our values and how it impacts our attitude. So quickly, the last area to cover. So we looked at one leg, your personal development. We looked at two legs, which is your professional engagement. And now we're going to look at the shoes you wear. And in this, we're talking about how you manage your space. And let me just give you just a quick synopsis of what my experience was growing up in the family business. And that basically for me, onboarding and firing looked a lot different than it does today. In many instances, it lacked the structure. And I'm laughing because I just remember seeing my father in how he operated, and there is no way that he could get away with doing that in this day and age. Is that it lacked the structure, it lacked consistency, and it lacked formality that HR actually now demands. There wasn't any manuals, there wasn't any real written policies, and the decisions, in truth and in fact, was based on instincts or convenience. And so that was a different time. I mean, it was a typewriter. Everything was handwritten. So in those days, a pickup truck was 25% duty. The dollar was at $5.50 to $1. So I saw the transition from handwritten payrolls to being a dispute resolved over conversation. And it was more based on communication and relationship. And then, of course, I moved from that generation to a computer. And then I would have transitioned into this digital age. And so all of that says that the only thing that is constant is change. What I was exposed to growing up in the family business is definitely not where I am today. I've had to change, I've had to transition, I've had to develop. And so that has played a role in my work ethics. It has played a role in how I manage each and every space. The good thing is that I'm able to take that past and turn it around, transform myself into today's world and to be as efficient as possible. So HR strategic value is one that needs to continue to drive the culture, to drive the engagement and to support growth. When I was seeing my father, just basically, I remember one of the workmen said to me one day that he just struck a match and stood up in front of a worker, and that worker was fired. I didn't see that for myself. It was related to me. And I remember thinking, that's what somebody does? No, there is no way that is something that can happen in this day and age. So there is a transition and there is a change. So I'm saying to each and every one of you to take on the role of changing, take on the role of transitioning, manage the office politics, manage the workplace divisions amongst departments. It really needs to be unified in order for you to wear your shoes, which means protection of not only your office, protection of the staff in which you have to interact with, protection of the brand. When I walk into the space, I want to be able to feel as if I'm welcome. Your brand. When you present yourself as an organization to the world in terms of social media or traditional medias for marketing, what I see there, those colors that appeal to me, the voices, the outfits that appeal to me, let me feel that when I come to your business space. Let me feel that when I make that phone call. So HR has that responsibility. And if you didn't see yourself that way, I encourage you today to see yourself that way. To realize that you are a part of the branding. Your way of interacting and engaging with your internal staff, your internal customer service, that is literally on you. How you interact. So you have different challenges. Each space, no matter how great it is, no matter how challenging it is, each space creates a room for opportunity. Try and look at things through that lens of opportunity, of how can you use AI the way in which IBM use AI? And it has nothing to do with company size. How can you use AI to better your office, to better your space, to be a part of the transition, to be a part of the evolution, to be a part of the shift? How can you be that person whom is undeniable, the one that the company has to hold on to? Is the human being for the space where technology is becoming more prevalent. So the shoes is not just about the style in this case, it's about your survival. HR means safeguarding yourself from the toxic narratives. How do you become more relevant? And if you realize, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about professional development, whether we're talking about the use of AI, integrating technology, whether we're talking about company brand, at the end of the day, it comes back to you. Your brand, your personal branding. You are the boss of you at the end of the day. You have persons you need to answer to, but you are the boss of your space. When you stand in that tile, when you stand on that space, when you sit behind that desk, you are the boss of you. So how do you become more relevant? How you become more self-aware and polished with the professional excellence that you need to execute your roles and your responsibilities? And that's really and truly my challenge to you today. What is it that you need to do to retool yourself to be relevant? Where is the information that you don't have, that you don't know that you need in order to be efficient? For those who are spiritually inclined, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but the Bible does say because of lack of knowledge we perish. What is it that you need to know that you don't know? No, that's a very difficult question to answer. But from this conversation, from yesterday's sessions, from the sessions that are happening later today, what do you gather from these sessions that can better enable you to be more resilient? How can you be more relevant in your space? I'm not seeing, okay, now we're back because I was not seeing the chat at all. How can you be more relevant in your space and more efficient in your space? My apologies, I should not be at that window. So I'm asking you today to take heed of yourself, to be more mindful of where you are, who you are, what you stand for, and how you can take that and marry that to your company's brand, your company's missions, your company's goals, your company's policies. How can you be the one that encourages and empowers and creates the bridge between human and technology? It's not going to be an easy task, because every day it changes, and that's just a fact. But you want to be in the know as much as you possibly can, but you don't want to become overwhelmed because it's a lot of information out there. I mean, when I was doing my research for this session, I realized that with the information that I was gathering, easily I could have a 5-hour session. So I'm saying that there's a lot of information out there. You have to also be disciplined enough to know when you need to stop, when now is not the time, and you need to take a break for yourself and not get caught up in the anxieties that the research can trigger, that the need to be relevant can trigger. So you still have to protect your own mental health and not take that for granted. And I implore you to be very mindful of that. We have, anybody wants to add anything to this aspect of the conversation about the shoes that you wear? Anybody?
Just one thing
Go ahead.
that's been ringing in my head: consistency. To be consistent as an HR. So you said earlier that employees know when you're not being genuine, right? So um, in order to really be helpful, um, um, being consistent. So even if you're, it might sound bad, but even if you're just checking boxes, check the boxes consistently, so that persons can say, okay, even if you're checking boxes, we can still depend on you to check the box. Because it's like you go to church, and you only go into the community when you're asking people to come to a crusade, right? You don't, otherwise they don't see you, none at all. People are not gonna, they're not going to want to have anything to do with you if you only come when you want something. So in terms of an organization, um, for instance, HR does nothing for the staff. However, once in a blue moon, they come with an activity and they expect everybody to, at a team building activity, they want everybody to participate. But where were you? Where have you been for the last 6 months? So consistency, I believe, is key to um, building a relationship with persons if you really want it to work. Thanks.
And I agree with you, Ms. Higgins. So what I also heard when you're speaking is, I find another way to be consistent, even when I'm checking the box. So it is, and as you said, the in checking the box, and you're more frequent in doing so, then it creates connection, and it creates your space of being relevant. But what's another way that you can check the box? What can you do? So I was having a challenge with the Mentimeter a while ago. That's something that you can even incorporate and put in a group chat and just use that as a means of engagement. It doesn't have to be work related. Did you watch a fight last night? Did you see this trending on TikTok? Just other ways and means of being a part of the team that makes you shine, that makes you relevant. Another way of checking the box. So that's another challenge for you today. And how can you check the box without checking the box? I think I'm gonna write that one down because I don't know where that came from. How can you check the box? I know the pen won't write. How can you check the box without checking the box? So that would also help you.
Sorry, but you know this thing about following the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law, that there are times what we want is the spirit. When you started talking about the shoes and protecting yourself, my mind ran to legalism. So yes, your dad wouldn't be able to get away with some of his HR practices because we now have laws and that sort of thing. But then you also spoke about, how we present ourselves on our social media and that sort of thing. So your image, it's more than something legal, because the way you're perceived, you may be fair, but people still think you're harsh, that sort of thing. So you have to look at what what is it that HR really should be doing for people? What is the purpose of HR? And you also have to remember too that the people who work in HR are employees of the organization as well. So yes, they're a bridge. They're a bridge between the organization and the other employees. And so again, if you're looking at biblical principles, what do you want? What would you want done for you? You want to be treated respectfully. You want to be treated fairly. You know, there are certain things that you want in the organization, and HR should be facilitating that for other people with respect to how they interact with the organization, but also, yes, protecting the organization as well. So mobilizing other people in how we collectively represent this organization so that the organization is seen in a certain light out there. So we have to know exactly what is HR's role? Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing? And then actually get up and do that. So as I said, there's a spirit, there's a letter of the law, but there's a spirit of the law as well. And HR has to keep its eye on the spirit of the law as well as the letter of the law.
And that is definitely true in this day and age, more so now than before. Thank you for that, Ms. Thomas. If we, oh geez, that was not supposed to have happened. That should not have happened where it gave the actual answer. Okay, my apologies for that. If we can just look at the chat for a quick second while we're getting ready to wrap up and answer this question. In the legs and shoes metaphor for modern HR, what do the shoes represent? The options are policies and compliance rules because they keep everyone walking in a line. Number 2 is effective staffing and brand protection, safeguarding the organization's people and reputation. 3 is office perks, incentives, making the walk more comfortable for employees. 4, technology tools like AI, cloud systems, giving HR a faster, smoother stride. And 5, the corporate hierarchy, because it determines how far you can walk. Ms. Thomas says all of the above. Anybody else wants to contribute?
I would say in reality it's 5, but that can be argued.
Yes.
I would agree with Thomas because it depends on the shoe that the person wearing, so could be all of the above.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Ramala though. Ramala's she's one of our major HR people here. Why is she saying 5?
Corporate politics. So whilst we want as HR practitioners to engage staff with the specific tools, what limits or how far we can walk is the acceptance of the executive and leadership team.
Mm. Mm. Ms. Thomas, you wanted to respond to that?
No, I'm just pondering it. I'm pondering it.
So as it relates to the shoes, one of the things that the shoes covers and protecting yourself is policy, is politics within an organization. And politics is never usually something that is easy to navigate in any space, whether it is family, whether it is an organization, or even if it is within your own self, your own principles that clash with something that you need to do that you may not want to do because you really don't think you need to do it, but it's really in your own, for your own good. So again, back to the whole conversation about transformation and change. So the politics in any situation is going to impact how we operate. But the matter is, at the end of the day, is that the challenge you want? And if yes, the challenge you're going to take on, how are you going to do it? And do you have the wherewithal within yourself, the resources within your emotions, within your mind, in order to take on that particular challenge? So yes, all of the above can definitely work, and it depends on your organization. But at the end of the day, to be effective staffing and brand protection, because at the end of the day, whether the person who is creating what I would say the barrier to your role in HR, you still have a responsibility. You still have a role to play. So you still have to engage staff, and you still have to, therefore, through engaging your staff, protect the brand of the company, whatever that is defined as. Your external customer service, how persons are treated, whether, say, for example, in the retail industry, on the floor, just in the shop, in the manufacturing entity, how your staff relates to each other, and therefore how that impacts turnover and productivity, which all at the end of the day affects the bottom line. So any angle you take it from, it's going to be that HR still has to engage with staff and protect the brand, and again, depending on what that's defined as. So thank you again for all the contributions there. Again, always valuable. These are the two books that I actually have done for HR, and as you can see, they're really geared towards internal customer service. I'm very big on that, because I find that the team makes the dream work. I have seen situations where a team lead changes, whether it is a senior manager, C-suite, whether it is a supervisor, and just from that change, you see performance like never before. Or it changes, and then you see a reduction in the performance. So I find that it's important that more attention is given to internal customer service. As we have about 12 minutes left for this session, I can literally sit here and recap everything that was discussed. But I think it's more important that we hear from each other. What are your takeaways? What have you learned from the session? What is it that you would like to take from this session going forward? What are the challenges you have with some of the information from the session? Because it's not always positive, it's just a reality that we live in. And how can you use anything that you have learned from this session to empower you to be a better you? And we can go around the room and have that conversation. Do we want to start out with Ms. Campbell, as she's first on my list here?
It was a very informative session. I don't think I have anything constructive to add, because I was in and out of meetings.
Understood. Understood. Thank you for that. Ms. Higgins, you are next on my screen.
So the thing that jumps out at me is upskilling, always looking on the horizon to better myself, because that's gonna in turn help other persons. The AI part is still a little scary for me, even though from what we've discussed, I understand that it helps a whole lot and will help a whole lot. It's just to get over the fear of being replaced. Although I know that yes, you're always going to need humans, right? But it's just for me to put myself in a position that will always give me a competitive advantage, and enable me to help my fellow employees, even as a regular staff member right now. Thank you.
And I thank you for that contribution, Ms. Higgins, and I encourage you not to allow your fear of losing your job and your fears that will fuel your research to get the better of you, because that can also happen because it's driven from fear. So sort of come to a place of peace and understand that in everything, everybody is replaceable. Reality, with or without it. But just be careful to protect yourself as you're going through this process, because fear can create another set of issues that you don't want for yourself. Is basically what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. The next person is Samantha, but for those of us who can't access their microphones based on their environment, if you can respond in your chat, if there's anything that you want to share about the session, what you learned, what you'll take away, Samantha. Samantha may not be able to respond. Miss McDonald, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, so sorry about that. I was trying to plug in my computer. What I liked about the session today is that the focus was on how individuals, how we can actually improve self to help to grow the organization, as opposed to how the organization can change to help for us. As we always talk about how the organization, how to change in order to facilitate its staff and enable us to be able to provide better, to offer better service. But I like the focus on us. So we have a responsibility to the organization as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Mrs. Duncan Reed. Not hearing from her. Miss Hawkins. I'm not sure if Miss Hawkins was one of them who shared that she couldn't open her mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I can open my mic.
Okay.
All right. So for me, the session was very thought-provoking, and as an HR practitioner and a member of this program from 2010, there are tendency to sometimes want to upskill yourself, want to go back into something to retrain and to edify yourself into what is happening. And certainly this session has provided me with a wealth of information in terms of looking at myself as an HR practitioner and also a manager that manages HR practitioners, how we should go about navigating this new shift that we're having. The shift is already here and it is constantly changing. And the session brought about how we need to get more involved in not only retraining the persons within our organization, but also retraining ourselves as HR practitioners to manage what is to come and what is here. So thank you for this session, and thank you, Olivine, for inviting us past students.
You are welcome, and I am most grateful to be here. Khadisha, can you access your mic and share with us? Or is there anyone else? We have what, about 4 more minutes left for the sessions. If anybody else wants to volunteer, I am open to hear.
I would just want to say one thing. One of the things I noticed is that this session, as well as the previous two, all came down on the side of us needing to have policy change, HR policy changed. Because in everything that we're doing, how we negotiate AI, how we negotiate the mental health of the people, how we negotiate engaging our employees, all of that. The next talk will be how we're going to bring persons with disabilities into the central workforce. So in everything that we're doing, we need HR to change the way it has been operating all along. We were saying earlier in our breakout group that HR will now need to begin to link itself with other professionals, and that HR is going to have to become more advocate on a national level rather than just at the organizational level. We were saying all of that earlier. In all of that, we also need one of our tools that we need to do. We need to learn how to write HR policy, because sometimes, when they say it is better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, sometimes if you see the wind, the way the wind is blowing, you can be the person who leads the organization to the promised land. And so HR, one of the things we're going to do this evening, our last talk, is how to write HR policy. I'm asking everybody to come back and do that, because it seems to me that in our upskilling, that is going to be one of the crucial things that HR people who do that kind of role in their organizations. So Alison might not be an HR person right now, but she has taken on an informal leadership role in that space. And this is one of the things. Come, put your suggestions down on paper, present them to people who have influence and who can make genuine change, lasting change in the organization. So that's what I'm saying. So this talk, this workshop has brought new information, but the bottom line is that a new day has come and we have to meet it in a brave way. We have to be proactive. So learn the new things. And we're giving you one opportunity this evening. Learn to write HR policy and be brave about doing so. Think about it. You were just telling Alison not to be afraid of losing her job. The truth is, even if she did, there would be a better, more proactive organization, a better organization who would be interested in somebody like that than the deadbeat organization that fired her for trying to bring improvements. So yes, don't be afraid. Just be confident in the fact that you know what you're doing and that you have a pure heart in being genuine about to improve the lives of the workforce, the people in the workforce, and you'll be okay.
Thank you for that, Ms. Thomas. And my time is about wrapping up. As I said, when I did the research, I realized I could easily go on for 5 hours. But ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your morning into afternoon. It has been quite informative for me, getting your feedback and hearing your thoughts on different topics. But I just wanted to say to you, remember that the road ahead will have its politics, its competition, and its unexpected terms. But the shoes you choose to wear will determine how far you go and how well you get there. So feel free to reach out to me. Ms. Thomas has been kind enough to share the workbook in the chat, which has my contact information, which is also on your screen. I do, again, thank you for your time and your energy and your openness. Ms. Thomas, thank you for this opportunity. I am Trisha Carara, and it has been an honor to walk this part of your journey with you and wear the right shoes and walk boldly. Have a fantastic afternoon, and I'll see you all in the next session. Thank you.
Applause, applause.
applaud everybody, applaud themselves. It's been 3 hours. Thank you.
Let me stop. Let me stop the recording.